Government spokesman Colonel Cyrus Oguna is joining us now on the line. Good morning, Colonel.
Good morning. Bofro moja na chapati moja ni ya nani hiyo?
Na turungi ya kuteremsha.
Neto chai ya rangi bwana.
Chai ya rangi sio?
Ndio.
Good morning, Colonel. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Morning to you. And thanks for inviting me to the show.
Asante sana. Now, you know what we are discussing? We're talking about the plight of Kenyans who've come back to the country from various countries where they were holding. This
Yes.
A group of Kenyans came from France via London to JKIA.
Yes.
They filled out a form that was mandating them to go and quarantine themselves at home.
Yes.
But their communication and their understanding from the very beginning was that they were going to be quarantined at a government facility. And so they were taken to St. George's.
Yes.
From St. George's, what they have directly told Dr. Mercy Korir is
yes.
On the first day, they received a full meal. The second day, they received lunch, breakfast and lunch. They did not get dinner until intervention of a health worker.
Yes.
The third day, they got full meal. The fourth day, they did not get anything until well past 8 p.m. And that's when they were getting the boflo, chapati, na chai ya rangi.
Okay.
And then after that, they were moved from St. George's. They were taken to KMTC.
Yes.
What's the story here, Colonel?
These are the 7 gentlemen
Yes.
who came from France, yeah?
Yes.
Yes, they were moved to St. George's because they were actually unruly. Remember, they are not the only people at the quarantine at St. George's. And the majority of the people there want their quiet, want their peace. And these 7 young men were really very unruly, making a lot of noise for everyone. And that actually is why they were transferred. Yes.
What is unruly? Just describe what were they
unruly,
doing?
Just being chaotic. You know, quarantine has got protocols that must be followed.
Okay.
And even if you're in quarantine, of course, you must obey the social distancing requirements.
Yes.
Yeah, and of course, there's also the need that you must also be cognizant of the fact that you're not the only one who is there. There are others. So there are those who do not want a lot of noise. So these young men really did not want to observe that. And to that extent, therefore, they had to be moved to KMTC.
Was this the case in all the 4 days that they were there? Like from day one, they were just noisy. What is it that we're doing by being unruly? Was it noise? Was it?
I think there's a sense of entitlement.
Okay.
And this is something that we must be able to, as a country, to address. You know, if you're coming back to your country, the country has got certain procedures, protocols, certain rules and regulations that you must be able to abide by. If you're coming from France, that's a different society altogether. When you're coming into your country, you're coming into a new society again, and a society that has got its own protocols. But they're finding it a bit hard to relate with the protocol that we have. And that really is why they had to initially be given time to try and adjust and live by the protocols that are here. So they found it a bit hard to adjust, and initially, you know, they had to be cautioned again and again, and they were unwilling to do that. And the process, they're also, you know, being unfair to the other, you know, who are in quarantine at St. George's.
Okay,
Yes.
All right. So one pertinent question here is, their costs, are they being covered by the government, Colonel Oguna?
The cost of quarantine, okay, let me put it this other way first. There are 2 sets of quarantine facilities. The first set is that you're given the option. Do you want to go to a hotel or do you want to go to a government-owned facility? Now, if you opt to go to a hotel, certainly you meet the cost of quarantine. Now, if you opt to go to a government-owned facility, then certainly the government will defray the cost of being in a quarantine facility. That is the standard, and that is the position, and that is what is being, you know, right now exercised in all these quarantine facilities.
Okay.
Yes.
So when this gentleman from France, when they were taken to St. George's, this is a government facility.
It is, indeed.
So all their bills are to be footed by the government.
And that is the position. It hasn't changed.
Their complaint was that they were initially they're also being told that they need to pay 4,000
Let me
shillings.
put it this way, Eric.
Yeah.
That it's not just St. George's. there is also a quarantine facility as a cooperative bank, and Dr. Mercy Korir is familiar with this.
Mm-hmm.
And even those that have been taken there are being, are taken care of at the government expense.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the position. And to the best of my knowledge, this morning, that has not changed.
Colonel, going back
Yes.
to the declaration forms, they sign declaration form to self-quarantine, and the rules therein are for home-based quarantine, but they end up in a government facility. Why is there a disconnect?
Dr. Mercy, the doctor, of course, you're aware. And I'm saying this specifically addressing you because I know you are familiar with this. The forms are standard. And there are those who are coming from India that have been, locked down there because of when we suspended, flight, not just us, but also other, countries, including India itself. So these massive flights, which are brought in this 165 from 230 from India. As they were filling the forms, on the basis that they will be able to quarantine at home for as long as there is a doctor and a caregiver who will be able to take care of them.
Okay.
The forms are standard, and the forms were designed for that group of people. So the others who are filling those forms is basically, forms that had been prepared for those who are coming from India, having been locked there, yet they had gone for medical treatment. Yes, so they were allowed to go home because some of them already had got other underlying conditions.
Yeah.
That would not allow them to be, quarantined in normal government facility.
But my question is, why not have forms that address the specific issue? So if you're going for home quarantine, you fill such particular forms. If you're going for home-based, for government-mandated quarantine, you fill forms to that effect. Why
if you're
not
going
have
to a hotel as well?
you
fill
fill
one
a form to
where
that
you also
effect?
commit that you're going to foot your bill.
But you see, Dr. Mercy, these people are rational people. And being rational simply means that they are explained to. The forms may have been talking about this, but they were explained to by a human being. And they understood the explanation. So when they're turning around and the forms are saying this, but you're being told this, yet they explained to that, yes, the forms are filling or is designed for this group of people, but nonetheless, you will be handled this way. And they understood that, yes.
Actually, to be fair to them, Colonel, is that they have not raised an issue with the form that they filled. They didn't have an issue. We are the ones who are raising that issue, wondering why is it so hard to just have the three forms?
You don't have to. You don't have to have an issue with that, honestly. Many times, like initially at the beginning of this corona campaign, there were complaints that they were filling Ebola forms
Yes.
instead of virus. And I remember that one was aired many times. But honestly, a form is a form for as long as the information, the others were actually explained to. So the issue should not actually be what the forms are saying.
Okay.
The issue is when they got into the country, how are they taken care of?
Okay.
Yes.
And so, Colonel, now, how they were taken care of, is being unruly and making noise something that should cause the facility or people not to offer food or not to offer basic care for them, and food here being that basic?
What is the protocol actually for handling? So if you have somebody who's unruly or somebody who is not following the laid down rules, what does the protocol say? What should happen?
And that's what we are saying, that the protocol says that if there is anybody who is unruly, then they must be made not to be unruly anymore. So they were removed there because we had people there who really want to observe this quarantine protocol as had been put down by the Ministry of Health and the government as a whole. And the people who are there really want just to do their 14 days without any disturbance. Yeah. And then they go home. Okay.
And that's completely understandable.
These 7 young men from France who feel that they're entitled to everything, that they wanted a 5-course meal. It can't happen.
Is this what they were requesting, a 5-course meal at the government quarantine?
Well, not exactly 5-course meal, but they wanted some entitlement to want this, want that, it couldn't happen. So what I'm saying, honestly, and I did take this up with my friend Dr. Mercy yesterday and explained to her that we are here for you. We are supposed to help you verify information before it goes out, because that's All right, and I'm glad that you're actually calling me this morning so that this issue can be, clarified. And I think that is what should be responsible journalism.
When they were moved from St. George's to Kenya Medical Training College, what changed?
Yes, that's a good question. You understand? Because of the level of the size of the space there, they have all this space themselves. Unlike St. George's, where most other people have been taken there. So then the size of space at KMTC is sufficient for them. If they want to riot the whole night, let them go riot the whole night within the facility, but not allowed to move out. At their own risk, of course. If one of them is infected, of course, they'll be there and until at such a time when they'll be able to test negative.
So moving them to KMTC sounds a bit punitive, kind of like you
made
a mistake here.
But again, we must also be cognizant that other people want their food. Let's not focus on one aspect and forget the other as well. There are people who have been there for a while. They just want to do their 14 days and go home. Some 7 young men comes on, and they want to be able to, destabilize the peace that these people have been enjoying. I think that is not fair to the other group. So even as we focus on the 7 young men, let's not forget that there's also another group that we don't seem to be talking much about.
I think it's important to focus on the 7 young men, Canon, and I'll tell you why. If indeed they are unruly, if they're not observing the quarantine, it's going to affect everybody else in that facility.
And exactly why they
and therefore, the management of this, the people, or this 7 or anybody else who becomes unruly is also very important for the protection of everybody else. So if you move them from one facility and you take them to another.
But remember, Eric,
yep.
Your health begins with you.
True.
You understand? Before it moves to the next level where the government now will intervene, it is you. All right? These other people who are there before are concerned about their health. Yes. They are obeying the protocols, right? And then another team comes in who don't seem to mind about the protocols. Then the government must step in. And that's exactly what the government did. Yes.
One of them has actually called in. Do you mind if we put him on air?
I don't mind.
And you talk to him. So this is Frank Jones-Bolly, who is now at KMTC quarantine. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning.
So you're one of the seamen who came in from Marseille through London and into JKIA.
Yes.
And you've been hearing, I guess you've heard the conversation with the government spokesman, Colonel Cyrus Oguna.
Yes, clearly.
You've now been moved to KMTC.
Yes.
Why were you moved to KMTC?
The reason was not given to us immediately because it was evening around 6. So we had gone to collect our food as usual. So then the matron comes in with her forms saying that you're supposed to vacate the facility and be taken to a better facility.
Yep.
So we asked her which facility. She was hesitating at first. Then she told us it's the KFTC. So we told her we have to confirm with our agency and get to know, the cause of us being transferred from St. George's, because we had aired our views. It's not that we were breaking the protocol. We, the only ones who were staying indoors all day, all night, with the food being provided for us, brought inside, we take our food. Even the other guys who were outside there were always complaining when they saw us out, when we had gone to do the medical checkup. They always said, these guys always want to stay indoors. They just keep indoors because they are from Europe. That was the concept. So I'm just wondering today, being told that we were breaking the protocol. I believe we were the most people who kept the rule of, keeping indoors, because it's so many people. You could see these other guys being seated outside there, just, not even minding about the social distance. Okay, but let's forget about that. So it so happened we had to make some calls from some other guys from the Ministry of Health, and they said St. George's is a better institution, so you just cooperate and move to St. George's.
KMTC.
So, to KMTC, sorry, yeah.
How many are you? How many were moved?
We are a group of 5, not 7, like the spokesman is saying about 7. Okay. We were just 5, yes.
So the government spokesman, you've heard him, he's saying the report that they have is that, one, you guys are unruly, you are noisy. And that the other people who are staying at St. George's are the ones who complained that you were making too much noise for them, that you were unruly.
No, that's a very big lie. I can say it without without fear without fear that we were the very cool guys. No noise, because none of us has a speaker or anything. We just use our laptops and some phones for some music, and that's all. We just keep ourselves between that space that we were allocated for. Just the five of us, nobody else.
Well, Eric, I've heard the young man.
Yes.
Yeah, but I would also suggest that if you're going to talk to one person, then talk to another person as well. Have you gotten to talk to somebody from St. George's?
We're looking to speak to somebody else from St. George's.
Yeah, so you see, I would not have expected to hear anything different, and I'm really not surprised, because there's no reason why the government would actually want to punish anyone. Why? For what benefit? Yet, they are there at government expense. Yeah, so really, I'm thinking that what is good for the goose should also be good for the gander. So I'm suggesting that even as we talk to somebody from KMTC, it may just help to get somebody from St. George's.
One of the complaining parties. But now that you have Frank on the line, Colonel, what advice would you give him in terms of how he should behave himself for the next 10 days?
Yeah, really, the government is doing this to protect Frank and his team, but also to protect the rest of the society. And there is nothing the government is doing to punish anyone. It would not help by punishing any Kenyan. And all these facilities are being run at government expense, essentially, to protect Frank and the rest of us. So all I can ask the young man and his team is to cooperate, because 14 days is not a lot of time, really. Just 2 weeks, within which, if they all test negative, they'll all be let to go and reunite with their families. So all they can do just to be mindful that this is done for the benefit and in the best interest of the country.
Frank, you hear that?
Yes, I hear. Of which is what we are observing. We just keep trying to keep our distance. Like here now in KMTC, everybody is allocated his cabin, so we just keep in those. We just go out during meal time, get our food, and come back to our cabin. That's all we do all day long, all night long.
All right. Thank you very much, Frank, for joining us this morning.
Okay, thank you so much.
And Colonel Cyrus Oguna, the government spokesman. Before we let you go, Colonel, there's also the other group that arrived from Guangzhou, China. And we saw footage as well on social media that they were taken to Cooperative College in Karen, but it took a long time for them to get admitted, with a whole back and forth on who's going to pay the bill.
A long time, Eric, is very relative. How long is a long time?
They arrived, we know for sure that the flight arrived at JKIA well past 1 a.m. And the video footage was being recorded in daylight. So clearly it's between 1 a.m. and daylight.
But you see, I don't have the data at what time they arrived. I know they arrived, before sunrise.
Yep.
Yeah, but all I can tell you now, honestly, is that the government directive is that wherever they are taken, those who are coming in, for as long as it's the government-owned facility, then everything will be defrayed by the government.
Okay.
That is the position. And the issue that I am aware of, the same thing that I did discuss with Dr. Mercy in the evening yesterday. And it was basically an issue that came up because of misinterpretation of communication. And that has since been sorted out. But I must also say this. Whenever anything goes out into social media, it's something that is broadcast the entire world.
Yes.
And I don't think as a country and as really, people of this country that we should be too quick to put things out there without necessarily confirming with the government. Because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do really is to make the whole government look bad. But I tell you this as well, that there are countries that are worse off than we are. But you don't hear things coming from there. So the best thing I think we need to do is that before we release anything to the social media platforms for the whole world to see and read, it may just help to call and verify and then it may give you another dimension that would help in terms of how you're going to to couch your story.
But
And I think that is what is good.
Let me ask. Between the CS making the announcement, people arriving, where do you think the problem is in government in making this seamless from people arriving to going into quarantine and everything moving in smoothly as is down on paper? Why is there a disconnect then?
Mercy Career, a government is a concept, and a concept that is given life by people who are in government. And because of sometimes we have got our own challenges as individuals a few times, the same challenges may be reflected in government. So the communication was made, and it did not get to them in good time.
Yep.
Right? But it was nonetheless a decision that had been made long before even that communication was released.
You can imagine.
So what I'm trying to say is that we as human beings are not perfect. And those imperfections are also, reflected in government. So let's not look at government as a well-oiled machinery, like a car engine that is very new. You understand? So there are those challenges.
I hear you personally. I hear you, and I you're our friend on this show, and you're a good man. But I've got to give you my feedback directly at this point. That there's some things that I expect my government to be able to do smoothly and efficiently. For instance, the issue of printing 3 forms, that should not even be a thing to discuss, Colonel. It should be very clear that if you're arriving from Gwangju, then it's very clear from you, from the moment you are boarding that flight, that you are going into a government-mandated facility, and this is a form that you're going to fill. And if you arrive from Gwangju and you want to go to a hotel, it's communicated to you clearly that you want to go to a hotel, you shall pay. You want to go to a government facility, you shall not pay.
Fine, Eric. Why don't you also look at the government's own wisdom to be able, and its generosity to be able to provide for these Kenyans? We're only looking at forms not having been there in time, not having been printed properly. Yet, you and me, who are the taxpayers,
because it's a detail. The devil is in the detail, Colonel. The devil is in the detail.
But also give the government
the previous quarantine issues were going haywire because of that breakdown in communication.
They have been sorted out.
Yes.
And I don't think it serves any purpose to go back where we came from. We are actually we are improving day by day, and basically I think that is how things should work. Initially, even an airplane, before it takes off, it suffers a bit.
And
but once it's taken off, it stabilizes and the ride becomes so smooth.
It's tested before passengers are allowed to board. Before a flight goes commercial, let's say Boeing 787, they are coming up with they will test it before they actually take it commercial. Basically,
but any flight, Eric, suffers when it is taking off. You don't even know whether the aircraft will take off at all.
Yep.
It will probably even outrun the runway. You see, and that is with any kind of a process. So it is improved with time. So the aeroplane just takes off and then it stabilizes. Then everything smoothens out.
I hear you, Colonel.
The same case would apply to all of us. So I'm saying this, but let's not focus on what might not have gone so well. It may also suffice to also look at what really has gone well.
True.
All right.
And our job here, Colonel, is to speak about both cases. So when we talk about
what has gone well.
Oh, we talk about what has gone well very well all the time.
Honestly, you and me are paying for these people. I mean, for our brothers and sisters at the quarantine facility.
Yes, they're also paying for themselves. They're taxpayers.
You're not even putting yourself for that. You're paying it.
It's true. Which is why I'd like my taxes to actually ensure that everybody who's enjoying the benefit of my tax is enjoying the benefit of my tax in the best way. When they arrive at JKIA and they go to cooperative college, they should be checked in just like they arrived at a hotel. Not stay there, not wait for communication breakdown between Afia House and cooperative college. That is what leaves a bad taste in the mouth. And you're wondering, Why? Such things should be simple.
It should not leave a bad taste.
Colonel
in the
Oguna, you
mouth.
should be dealing with the bigger things of how to fight COVID, not the small things of how people are checked into a
But
quarantine facility.
it is those small things that add on to bigger things about
you
fighting
go.
Well,
COVID.
exactly, Colonel. But I'd like to ask, is it possible? I mean, just
Yes.
the way that we've seen things, Colonel, is it possible for some of these processes to be seamless from where you sit and say, these are not the things that we should be dealing with at this point? Just seamless operations, especially when we have so many people coming in and out of this particular system. Is it possible for the operation to be seamless?
And you see, if you remember what the CS Health did mention, and I wish that some of these things can play them back. He did mention that yes, we had some challenges, but we're improving with time. He was able to acknowledge, and what he was saying basically is that human existence is not perfect. There are imperfections, but sometimes once you identify the imperfections, we improve on them and we move forward. And that's exactly what you were saying when you talk about issues with logistics at quarantine facilities. And honestly, I think we've done extremely well where we are today compared to where we started from.
We'll be the judge of that, Colonel. We will be the judge of
Yes,
that.
yes. Fine, no problem.
Asante sana, Colonel Cyrus Oguna, for speaking to us.
Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Colonel.
Anytime.
Usikunywe chai na mandazi leo.
Chai ya rangi.
Chai ya rangi.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.